everybody, and welcome back to The Way That We See It. My name is Lucy Superfox, and this is my podcast. So welcome back. Today, I want to talk a little bit about pushing uncomfortable feelings down. This is something I did for such a long time. And I say I mean a long time. I mean my entire life until about 3 years ago. And I think that feeling comes from when you're young, whether it's as a child or a teenager, and you experience challenges or you don't understand your own emotions, especially with hormones, right? Hormones make us girls crazy. And I think for me, I didn't understand my emotions as a young teenager. I had lack of confidence. I knew I was intelligent. I knew that I had the academia, but I didn't understand my social skills. I didn't have the confidence to speak to new people. I was relatively shy. Once I was trusting with you, once we had a relationship, I was great. I was out there, but I found it really difficult to make new friends. And I think that came from the fact that I had a very tight-knit family circle when I was young. You know, my sister and I are only 2 years apart in age. And I think that I felt a sense of responsibility being the eldest child quite early on. And so I took on more of that role that I never really selfishly wanted more friends or wanted to do things. And I was more worried about what everyone else was doing and was everyone okay. And I very much adopted that kind of mum of the group role. Now, I think what then happens is you adopt that feeling of responsibility, that feeling of, I guess, certainty. And that's feeling needing to be certain about things. I needed to be sure because I needed to protect people and care about people. And that's almost where a feeling of fear developed and, almost anxiety around things, because I wanted to be sure. I wanted to, be responsible. I wanted to be the organized one. And I still definitely have those traits. But I think what that then led to was when I would feel things that were uncertain, or when I would be afraid of things, or when there were things that would happen that would be out of my control, I would panic, or I would fly off the handle, or I would be out of control. I remember this one distinct story, and if any of my school friends listen to this, they'll be like, oh my God, I remember, where I was obsessed with wearing makeup. I was about 13, 14. I had really, really bad skin. Now I know it's because I was dairy and gluten intolerant and eating fucking shit tons of it. And I was, had really bad skin, super self-conscious about it. And I wore a lot of makeup. And my friends were just really worried about me. They were really worried with the amount of makeup I was wearing and how obsessed I was with topping it up. And one day they stole my makeup bag. Now, I was devastated. I freaked out. I had to go back to school the next day with no makeup on. Now, in the moment, you might think it's not really a big deal. But in the moment, it was terrifying for me. That fear, that uncertainty, that lack of control was absolutely terrifying. And so when I share with people about that story, what for me it symbolizes is that first feeling of not really understanding anger and emotions and fear. And I used to bury those insecurities in wearing makeup, right? And that behavior then changed to not really eating very much. And then that behavior changed to over-exercising. And then that behavior changed to partying too much. Then that behavior changed to drinking too much. Then that behavior changed to prep, over-exercising, over-dieting. And so the list goes on. It's endless. I've done them all. I've even done oversleeping to not have to deal with uncomfortable feelings. And then there came a point about 3 years ago where I just realized I was never going to get there from here. I was never going to get to this life that I had visioned for myself, the life I'd allowed myself to see. I was never, ever going to get there from this place of just holding everything down. And by this point, maybe a little bit longer than 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, I was, pretty big for my size. I'm 4'10". I was pretty big. I was definitely emotionally eating and emotionally drinking. I was pushing a lot down. And I didn't want to face it. I didn't want to face the hardships. I didn't want to face the things that were going to come off the back of facing those uncomfortable feelings. And what happened was I ended up having to face them. It ended up being a situation where I didn't have a choice. It was one of the best things that ever happened to me, because in that moment, I had to choose my hard. I had to choose the hardship of facing the things or the hardship of living with the struggle. And I just knew I couldn't live with the struggle anymore. It was exhausting. It was trying. It was so tiring. Guys, there is no coincidence within the 12 months after that, after that, I dropped to half the size, and I've maintained that naturally ever since, because my body wasn't stressed. I wasn't over consuming. I wasn't in this yo-yo cycle with alcohol and food and sleep. And because I wasn't trying to buffer anything or push anything down, I was just my fullest, truest, most honest self. And yes, that was hard. And yes, it meant I need to be vulnerable and I need to be authentic. And that word is so overused, but I had to genuinely wear my heart on my sleeve. I had to face the fact I'd fucked up a lot. I'd made a lot of mistakes. I had to face the fact that I had wasted years of my life doing certain things a certain way and pivot to do them differently. But if we don't choose our heart, if we don't choose that moment where we pivot to see it differently, you're not going to create anything different. Your life is going to look exactly the same 5, 10, 15 years from now. And so if you're pushing those uncomfortable feelings down, and whatever those uncomfortable feelings are, whether it's about your business, your relationship, money, family stuff, yourself, your lack of confidence, if you're pushing things down, just know they are going to rise to the surface. And the best way for you to deal with them is to do that in a safe space and in a safe place, whether that's with a therapist, a counselor, a coach, whatever the level you feel is appropriate. And to start facing these issues head on, because if you don't, denial will get you, right? It will absolutely get you. Or what will happen is you will completely self-destruct. I believe a lot of the reason that people reach that midlife stage where they make a big U-turn, do something drastic, go crazy, spend all their money, whatever, is genuinely because they've been living life 1 degree out from everything they wanted to do. Now, guys, the midlife crisis chart shows you that this here was where you wanted to get to. But because you've never quite faced up to the fears, the things in your mindset, maybe you've never said no, maybe you're a people pleaser, you've ended up 1 degree out every time. Guys, 1 degree over time, you end up here. No wonder people U-turn need to make that big decision when they have a midlife crisis, right? And please don't think I'm ever diminishing what that mentally, chemically, emotionally is. But what I want you to understand is that when we don't address our emotions, we don't address our feelings, we don't deal with what's really going on, we're going to end up out of kilter. We're going to end up out of sync. And I believe that a lot of people who struggle with body image and body issues, it's trauma and self-worth that's sat there they haven't dealt with. And, I listened to a great audio by Dr. Joe Dispenza yesterday. And if you don't know who he is, please go follow him. He's incredible. He makes things like the law of attraction scientific and make it make total sense. But one of the things he says is that you can have the label from the psychotherapist. You can have the tablet from the doctor based on your diagnosis. You can have the astrology chart. You can have the numerology chart. You can have the psychotherapist tell you, the way your parents brought you up. You can have all of these labels. You can have all of these approaches. You can have all of these reasons why your life is the way it is. You can analyze it to within an inch of its life. But ultimately, one day you're still going to have to face yourself if you want change. And we cannot be a victim and a success at the same time, guys. We cannot be in a state of lack, a state of things are happening to me. Why is this happening to me again? What's happening? This happened to me in my past. This was awful. And be in a state of growth, success, vision, dreams, making it happen. Not possible. They are completely different energies, completely different thought processes, and ultimately they're completely different people. And so if right now you feel like you're pushing, a snowball uphill, you feel like you're not transforming, you're not changing, life isn't changing, even though you feel like you're putting in energy, time, effort, work, I guarantee it's because you're pushing stuff down. Until you are so open with yourself, and like I said, with the right person, with the right professional, you are never truly going to move forward and unlock things. And guys, I unlock beliefs every single day. I'll be sat there and, my partner Josh will say something, or a client will say something, or someone in my team or someone on social media will say something, right? And I'm going to go, bingo, there it is. And I'm able in that moment to face it because I don't want to push it down. I'm able to bring it to the surface, address it there head on and say, why do I feel this way? Okay, cool. When did that happen? Okay, great. How can I pivot this belief? Do I believe in the opposite of it? Yes or no? No? Okay, cool. I'm going to need to do some work in this area. Now, obviously, I've been on a huge personal growth journey and I'm able to do that because of that growth journey that I've been on. But what I want you to remember is you are in that same seat of power. You still have that exact same chance and the exact same choice to not push it down anymore, to face it head on, and to, in the words of Joe Dispenza, to face yourself. If you want to transform and change your life, you are going to have to face yourself. The thoughts, the behaviors, the beliefs, the mindset, the narrative, all of it. So as you continue to push it all down, you are just delaying a crisis, a breakdown, the inevitable. And so when you listen to this, I want you to go away from this and ask yourself, what am I running from? What am I continuously pushing down? What am I not facing? And what do I need to face? It's not about denial of, diagnosis, guys. That's not what it's about. What it's about is realizing that despite all that information, you still have a choice about what happens next. But when we live in that victim mindset, we tell ourselves that we don't. But we 1,000,000% do. There are people who live the worst lives of adversity, strife, trouble, what's happening right now in the Middle East, what's happening right now in Turkey. These things are happening to people, and we live, you're sat listening to a podcast on a smartphone that you pay for on a direct debit, and you are sat probably from your home or from your office or somewhere comfortable. We live privileged lives. So do not ever say that it can't be possible for you. Do not ever say that resources are a reason that you can't have, do, or be the thing you want to do. The labels that you give yourself, the way you define yourself is up to you. But you cannot be a victim and success at the same time. I'm going to say that 10,000 times over, because when I read that or saw that, I can't remember, and I wish I could remember where it's from, it blew my brain. You cannot be moaning, blaming, and complaining at the same time as growing, leading, and changing. And so you have got to be the one that empowers yourself to make that transformation. And it comes from facing up to your bullshit and not pushing stuff down. It comes to facing the lies that you've been telling yourself, the lies maybe you've been telling others, accepting the truth and choosing your heart. A life of lying to yourself, a life of not saying it how it is, or a life that's going to have to face some difficulty up front, but at least you're going to be your truest, most authentic self. So I wanted to share that with you guys tonight about uncomfortable feelings. It flowed into my mind. I was like, right, let's get this out into a short podcast. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you took some value from this podcast. If you did, I'd love for you to leave a review, subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. That was Lucy Superfox and the way that I see it.